is our job to deal with oil, not to create rifts between countries for no ideal purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. 2 weeks. That is all it takes. Our economies will not be ruined in a 2-week period. I'm going to keep this number up. 2 weeks. We need to boycott our exportation of oil to the United States of America and other Israeli-supporting nations.
Iraq urges this committee once again to get back on topic with supply and demand of oil, or the biannual agenda. We will be talking about Israeli and Palestine later, but right now we had some solid ideas, some solid foundation that we were actually working on, but right now we're getting all confused with political ties and everything else. That's why I call for an unmoderated caucus to get some of these ideas around instead of just contradicting each other again and again. So we urge for an unmoderated caucus. Thank you.
This concludes the 5-minute moderated caucus.
I told you
Do you guys understand what I was saying?
Recommends that the mandate of the International Court of Justice be expanded to allow nations to appeal resolutions, mandates, and decisions by the Security Council that violate the principles as set out by the UN Charter and other binding international documents. Operative 2. Further recommends that the International Court of Justice be given discretion of the fulfillment of appealed Security Council decisions. Operative 3. Calls upon all nations to honor the decisions of the International Court of Justice. Operative 4. Encourages the Security Council to reconsider appealed decisions for the purpose of finding a more appropriate solution.
United States.
Taking away from the finality of the Security Council and possibly taking away from the power that is the UN?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. You yourself said that it is the only body with, I think you said, authority in the UN. Well, obviously, if we just have a single executive branch with power over everything, doesn't that sound kind of fishy? Well, anyway. Basically, it's not giving the ICJ a power to oversee the operations of the Security Council. If the Security Council operates as it should within the boundaries of the UN Charter, the ICJ should never have to deal with any appeals by nations who are affected by the resolutions. I mean, if, say, the Security Council decided to declare war, this is an extreme case, against a nation, they should obviously at least have some sort of platform where they can appeal the decision. So it's only, if you look back to pre-operative 1, it's only in certain cases that violate these principles, which technically the Security Council should not be doing, that are appealed.
Okay, there are 4 minutes.
The ICJ was set up for insulated cases. For example, if there was a bombing of refugee camps, the ICJ would handle whether it was right or wrong and what reparations would be made. So if the ICJ wasn't set up for this purpose, how do you propose we suddenly change the ICJ to handle automatically reviewing Security Council decisions?
All right, this is not allowed. This is not allowed to automatically review Security Council decisions. I mean, if a nation feels that the mandate has violated the principles of the UN Charter, then it can appeal. Not just any sort of thing. Like, sure, the Security Council wants to set up a peacekeeping mission. I mean, obviously, as long as it operates within the boundaries set out by the UN Charter and other documents, it shouldn't need to be appealed.
Okay, there are 3 minutes and 15 seconds left. Norway.
Decides to appeal to the ICJ, and then they send it back to the Security Council, and it gets vetoed. It wouldn't be like a repetitious cycle. Do you understand what I mean?
Well, as it says, Operative 4 encourages the Security Council to reconsider appeal decisions for the purpose of finding a more appropriate solution. Perhaps it should be reworded so that it's solutions that are found out of bounds of the UN Charter are reconsidered.
Okay, 2 minutes and 5 seconds. United States.
The ICJ will only be able to look at decisions that are passed within the Security Council, correct?
Yes.
No problem. Indonesia.
ICJ discretion for fulfillment of appeals, wouldn't it be more effective to reform the representation of members on the Security Council so that the Security Council better represents the view of the entire world instead of lessening the power of the Security Council and giving up some of this power to the ICJ?
Okay, I totally agree with you. That's increasing the representation of the Security Council is something that still needs to be looked at. This is just one part of the solution, and I'd just like to present it as such. So even if we do pass this theoretically, I obviously want to look at other resolutions discussing membership.
Venezuela.
If the ICJ were to rule in favor of the nation appealing a decision made by the Security Council, how would this ruling be enforced, seeing that the ICJ does not really have enforcement powers?
If you look at Operative 2, it would give them the power to do as they wish, basically, with the appealed resolution upon its being ruled in favor of the nation, of course.
Ireland.
Wouldn't this affect the ability for resolutions to be passed in case of an emergency?
If you look at Operative, where is it? 4, encourages security, no, wrong one, sorry. Operative 5, supports the enforcement of Security Council decisions during the appeal process, which means that they're passed, they go immediately into effect. That means that if nations think that it's being wrong, then while it's in effect, they can appeal it.
Norway.
I'm sorry, could you clarify what you just said?
Okay. It in no way hinders the Security Council as a fast-acting body to prevent international security things. It just allows nations to appeal the decision if it's thought, if the nation is thought is acted outside boundaries. You want to try? I'm having trouble with words right now.
That during the appeal process, that the...
In trouble for that, because if it is found out that we were lying to the international community,
Much worse.
then no matter what we do, we will not erase that. Okay, well...
Response?
Say she was a spy and told them.
Zay was supposed to explain that there are no remains. He didn't.
Don't apologize. Why must you continue with this diplomatic?
We've been nice to them for over 10, 20 years. We've been saying, look, comrades,
The chair has decided there are no...
How can we? I mean, as you say, there's probably no doubt that our security forces are up and they are running in the light of the attack on the dam. But we have to be careful because, like it or not, we can be viewed as an aggressor or an unprovoked aggressor against Taiwan. Because, like I said, we don't have anything connecting them to that exact proof of proof that we can connect them to this and that they were, in fact, attacking the mainland of China.
We do not take an aggressive stance toward this issue, if we do not pursue possibly military actions we will be passed up.
I would say that I am deeply saddened by this and to find that we have a mold in our own cabinet. I mean, the Minister of Defense, nonetheless, revealing information to the Taiwanese.
When the British military begins to shoot family members standing in their backyards for no reason, they will be removed. But until then, Northern Ireland needs stability, and the police force cannot give Northern Ireland the stability it needs, so the British garrison will stay.
Thank you, Speaker. Next bill.
1972, they started to get rid of direct rule, Parliament started to get rid of direct rule on Northern Ireland.
I think you can use it to reoperate
I have not supported those records in one speech.
Yeah, but we can't condemn.
Iraq sees many good ideas in
resolutions, but the problems that we're seeing isn't with what is trying to happen, but the specific wording of it. What this allows is for countries to basically look at these and interpret them how they wish. They can define terrorism how they wish. They can define justice and enforcing how they wish. This leaves Iraq in a very compromised position. If we have the United States or the United Kingdom or larger, more powerful nations determining these things, that leaves our country open for enforcement, for in some ways an invasion.
Rod's very happy with the support we're receiving from OPEC right now, as opposed to what happened earlier. And the two main points, as we said, were to lift the Iraqi sanctions, and we will let inspectors from a non-biased organization into our country after the sanctions are lifted, and also to help to resolve the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. These are 2 points that have to be met, and the United States, even when we spoke to them, said that they comply with the lifting Iraqi sanctions and consider the Israeli-Palestinian.
In dealing with the...
Iraq would like to remind this committee it is not an ultimatum, but basically a buildup of what's happened for over a decade. Iraq and Iran have not been recognized in this committee on the topic of Iraqi sanctions and on the topic of the Palestinian conflict. We have taken military action because of what has happened in the past, and we would not like to pursue this action as long as these points are met. We're not trying to threaten this organization, but we want these issues to be resolved. And we hope that these broader issues that surround OPEC can be solved, and that way military action will be withdrawn, and there will be a happier world for all of us. Thank you. Threats against a nation. You asked why we have threatened you. OPEC has threatened to reduce Iran to observer status. We see this as a threat. We see that the OPEC organization was not willing to cooperate this way. We had to take military action in order to be heard. We are not setting the precedent. The United States has set the precedent. They have set the precedent that only through military action can you get a reaction, can you get these things solved. Over a decade, we have been suffering. Why? The Saudi Arabian delegate asked, why have 106 million women and children have had to die in Iraq? Why has our development decreased 160%? Why? I would like these questions answered, and why Kuwait does not support lifting sanctions. Why do we have to make our concessions first and withdraw first? We want the sanctions lifted first. We want the Israeli-Palestinian action met in order so action can be done, and that these are secured, these points are secured in this committee. It has the ability and the sway to solve this issue. The 2 points need to be met about Iraqi sanctions and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict before we will withdraw our military action. We want to cooperate, we want to negotiate. We do not see that we should withdraw military action before such sanctions are lifted, like before sanctions are lifted. Yes. Then, when is then? We want to know when our people will stop suffering, when our sovereignty will be given back to us. Kuwait, we have been paying you reparations. If we were able to get our economy back in line, maybe we could help support you more. We have recognized your sovereignty as a nation, and we would hope to further that. But right now, our country needs the sanctions lifted, and the Palestinian people need the respect. Thank you. And our
NGOs or various organizations, and then would be implemented without your government having to pay. Would Congo be open or willing for this?
Yes.
Care about it. Compared to you're like,
What do you like?
You're obsessed there. She's like,
Do you guys want to hold off this, and then when they come in, 30 seconds?
Throughout the caucus, I've been working on a resolution
resolution with Colombia and Indonesia. Basically what this does is it creates a committee of regional leaders that will review donated materials before they're passed on to countries. That way we can make sure that these materials don't have any cultural offense in them and that people's native cultures will be maintained.
Delegates, I just want to discuss choices with you. Nations these days, especially the 32 HIPC nations, have a choice to make. They can either repay their debts or feed their people and develop their country. Nations should need to be faced with choices like this. So, obviously, we are for either the full absolution of debt, or else at least making it easier for these nations to pay. But also, not have to make the choice between their culture and their own national sovereignty in running their nations versus getting the money they need to survive. That's almost what the choices that the United States is proposing sounds like. Sure, we'll give you money if you let us come in and run your nation for you. That's almost what it sounds like. So I don't want any nation to have to make the choice between sovereignty and letting their people survive. Thank you.
First of all, Iraq sees the missile defense systems as being a pretty large problem for the world. Because even though the United States claims that it is purely defensive, apparently we can see that this is used as an offensive system. If it wasn't, they would have no problem with sharing the technology among every nation in the world. And if they did that, that would be an end to the threat of ballistic missiles. I don't understand what the problem is. If we allow a few select nations to build these defense systems, there is no incentive for them to work with the international community. They will work unilaterally, which is, I mean, considering the resolution we passed on the other topic, not something this committee would like to see them do. I think that we really need to look at what this could cause for security, because they're saying they need to defend themselves. Well, we need to make sure that if something happens, we're able to defend ourselves as well.
It would be a good idea to get a resolution into the press release, but I'm telling you now that neither one of the resolutions is ready to be voted on and put in cement. The first resolution that we have, since we do not have consensus on it, I'm going to tell you has a very likely chance to fail, because the British government is not for Operative 2. And that is part of the main part of that resolution. So in the second resolution that we have, we're working on still fixing Operative 7 to have more of a consensus of people's ideas.
No, that's not whatever.
Or maybe it's getting hit by a car.
Or whatever. Teresa, turn your light on. Turn your light on. Go ahead, Kelsey.
See, they're there.
There.
Oh, you don't even need that light.
She's not whatever. I don't get filmed if I don't want.
Please, not while I'm driving.
Whatever. I do what I want.
Of course, going to show this footage at the next parents' meeting.
Whatever.
Yeah, these are your children.
Friggin' Chisnell! Friggin' Spider-Man! Spider-Man does whatever Snyder can! You guys are bad chaperones, you know that? You let me get beat up and made fun of! So...
Alright, Chris. Alright, Chris.
Erica, shut up.
185 tuba players walk into a bar, Chris. The bartender says, "Oh man, you gotta be kidding. We don't serve tuba players here." So the tuba players, they leave.
It's really disgusting.